After my father passed, we scattered his ashes in the garden per his wish. A week later, I found a bag of dirt on my porch with a note. I cleaned up your mess. I ran outside, the soil was gone. I knocked on my neighbor's door, screaming. She handed me a small box. Don't worry, she said. He's safe with me now. I called the police. They found the urn. But next to it were candles, a ring of salt, and a handwritten letter that read, "Finally, I have a father who listens." My dad died in early January, a little after New Year's. He'd been sick for a while, lung cancer that started slow, then spread fast. By the end, he couldn't talk much, barely ate. I was the one taking care of him. My sister lives out in Pennsylvania, and she couldn't be here full time, so I did most of it myself. Dad was the kind of guy who liked silence. He didn't complain, not even when the pain got bad. The only thing he asked for, near the end, was to stay at home. No hospitals, no tubes. Just his old recliner near the back door, so he could watch the garden. That garden meant everything to him. Raised beds, old oak tree, rows of tomatoes and herbs. He'd dig around in it even when he could barely walk. He used to joke that when he died, he wanted to rot in the dirt with the worms. When he passed, I found a note in his old recipe book. It was short, written in pencil. When I'm gone, spread me in the garden. Let me feed the soil. So that's what I did. After the cremation, my sister and I took his ashes and scattered them under the oak tree. It was cold, overcast, and quiet. We cried. We told stories. We poured the ashes slowly and worked them into the soil like he used to do with compost. I thought he'd like that. A week went by. One day, I came home from work and there was something on my porch. Just sitting there. A plastic grocery bag. One of those cheap, thin ones that rip if you put anything heavier than a loaf of bread inside. It was filled with dirt. Just dirt. There was a note taped to the outside. Not folded. Not hidden. Just slapped on, bold marker in thick handwriting. I cleaned up your mess. At first, I was confused. I stared at it for maybe a minute. Then I looked up through the living room window, at the backyard. The soil was disturbed. The spot under the oak tree, the exact spot where we spread Dad's ashes, was dug up. The ground was uneven, darker. Like someone had been there with a shovel. I dropped the bag and ran outside. I fell to my knees in the garden and clawed at the dirt. There were signs of digging. The mulch was scattered. Bits of ash-colored soil were gone. Completely gone. Someone had come into my yard, dug up the ashes, and dumped a bag of dirt on my porch like it was garbage. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Then it hit me who did it. My neighbor Carla. Carla had always hated my dad. She lived alone, mid-50s, retired early, always watching from behind the blinds. The kind of woman who calls the HOA if your grass is half an inch too tall. The kind who doesn't wave back when you say hi. When Dad got sick, she made comments. It's depressing watching him sit out there all day. Maybe he could smoke somewhere else? Can't you move the oxygen machine inside? She even filed a complaint about hazardous waste. Because one time, I threw out used gloves and tubing in the outside trash. I tried to ignore her. But this was insane. I stormed over to her house. Didn't even put shoes on. I banged on her door, fist hitting the wood like I was ready to break it down. Open the door, Carla. Open it right now. She opened it. Slowly. Calm. She looked at me like I was a stranger. No emotion. Just this flat, creepy stare. Then she smiled. I have him, she said. What? I was shaking. He's safe with me now. She handed me a box. A small wooden box with a brass latch. No label, no writing. I opened it. Inside was my dad's urn. His actual urn. Still sealed. I recognized the scratches on the side from when I dropped it during the service. My throat closed up. I looked at her like she had slapped me. You dug up my father's ashes, I said. She didn't blink. You were disrespectful, she said. You threw him in the dirt like trash. He deserves better. I backed away and called the police. They came quick, but Carla didn't fight it. She acted like none of it was a big deal. Just stood there, smiling while they searched her house. Then they found the basement. She had made a setup. A folding table. Candles. A ring of salt on the concrete floor. Right in the middle of it all was a photo of my dad, cut out from a newspaper article where he'd been honored for community gardening back in 2009. Next to the photo was a handwritten letter. Red ink. Sloppy handwriting. Pages long. They read parts of it out loud. It said things like, He listens to me. He doesn't yell like mine did. He understands. He belongs here. And the last line. Finally, I have a father who listens. That's when something in me snapped. This woman didn't just hate my dad. She wanted him. She thought she could replace her own twisted memories by taking mine. That's when I stopped crying. And I started planning. Carla wasn't arrested. The cops said they couldn't charge her with anything more than trespassing and maybe tampering with a burial site. But since Dad's ashes weren't buried in a cemetery, and the garden was technically part of my property, they couldn't do much. She gave the urn back, and that was that. She got a fine. That's it. No jail. No real punishment. Nothing that could even come close to what she did to me. I kept asking the officer, "What about the letter? The candles? The salt? Isn't that some kind of ritual?" He just said it was. Weird. But not illegal. I didn't sleep for days after that. I kept the urn locked in a fireproof box in my room. I moved my bedroom to the first floor so I could keep an eye on the backyard. I installed a floodlight and motion sensors. I changed the locks. But it wasn't enough. Carla started getting bold. She'd stand in her front window and stare at me while I mowed the lawn. She started sending letters. No return address, just slipped under my door or in my mailbox. Each one was written in red ink. Sentences like, "He told me he misses the garden. You don't understand him like I do. Fathers choose who they love." She was unraveling. Or maybe she already had. I went to the HOA. They said it was a private matter. I got a lawyer. He said a restraining order was possible, but hard to enforce unless she made another physical move. I felt like I was going crazy. No one would help me. And she knew it. Then one night, around 2 a.m., my motion light went off. I grabbed a baseball bat and ran outside. There she was. Standing at the edge of my garden. Not moving. Just standing there barefoot, in a nightgown, holding something in her arms. It was a pillow. When she saw me, she didn't run. She looked up at the oak tree, then at me, and said, "I'm not taking him back. I just wanted him to see where he came from." That's when I decided I wasn't going to wait anymore. I needed to end this. Not just stop her, but shatter her. And I knew exactly how to do it. I started watching Carla the way she used to watch us. I kept notes. Times she left the house. What she wore. Who visited her, which was almost no one. I bought a dash cam and angled it toward her driveway. I installed a second camera hidden in my upstairs window, pointed at her backyard. For 2 weeks, I gathered everything. I needed leverage. Something that would make her crack in public. Make her reputation crumble the same way she tried to destroy my father's memory. And then I got lucky. I found her online. She had a blog. It was locked down under a weird name, True Bonding, but one of the letters she sent me had a matching phrase. I searched it and found it. It was a mess of ramblings. Dozens of posts. Posts where she talked about my dad. Claimed he spoke to her. Claimed he told her secrets about his past. That he promised to stay near her. She even wrote about the urn. She called it his vessel. But the worst part. She had photos. Photos of her digging in my garden. She took selfies. With my dad's ashes behind her. One where she's smiling, face smeared with dirt, and the caption says, "He's finally mine." I downloaded everything. Then I printed the blog posts. Every last one. Even the ones where she said the police were on her side. Where she said, "No one will believe her. They never believe the daughters." I know. Mine didn't either. I sent the entire stack to the local HOA. I dropped off copies at 3 houses on our street. I mailed one to the gardening club she used to run before she retired. And then I posted screenshots on the neighborhood Facebook group. I didn't put my name on any of it. I just watched it spread. Within 24 hours, Carla was a neighborhood ghost. People crossed the street when she came outside. The garden club issued a statement. Her HOA board position? Gone. Someone egged her front door. I heard she got a letter from her church saying she wasn't welcome. For a while. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because one of her blog posts mentioned a name I'd never seen before. Unlike Alan, he listens. Alan. I searched county records. Found out she had a son. He changed his name years ago. Lived 2 towns over. I found him. And I called him. Alan picked up after 3 rings. I used my real name. I told him who I was. At first, he sounded cautious. Like he thought I was a scammer or something. But the second I said, "Your mother dug up my father's ashes and performed rituals in her basement," He went quiet. Then he said, I believe you. We met at a diner off the highway. I brought a folder with the blog printouts, the photos, copies of the letters she sent me. He didn't even flinch. Just kept nodding while flipping through it all. She's sick, he said. She's been sick a long time. I asked why no one helped her. She won't take help, he said. She cut everyone off. Told everyone we abandoned her. Truth is, she drove us away. He looked at one photo, Carla smiling with the urn in the background, and whispered. She used to do this with my stuff when I was little. Take my things. Say they were hers. Say I owed her. I told him I needed one more thing to make sure she never tried to come near me again. He knew what I meant without me saying it. 2 weeks later, Carla got a letter. Official. Sealed. Delivered by a court officer. Her son had filed for a restraining order. Not just from him, but from anyone related to deceased individuals. The wording was careful, legal, and specific. It mentioned mental harm, grave desecration, and past obsessive behaviors. Her reputation was already shot, but this put it in writing. But still, it wasn't enough for me. Because even after everything, she kept watching. Her blinds never stayed shut. Her porch light would flick on every time I stepped outside. I caught her standing in the street one night, staring at my oak tree. She never walked her dog before, but now she'd stroll by my house every evening. I needed finality. So I gave her exactly what she wanted, closure. I staged a burial. I invited a few close friends and my sister. We placed a fake urn in a wooden box and buried it under the garden with flowers around it. I made a show of it. We even said a few words. Carla watched from her window. That night I didn't sleep. I waited. At 3:17 a.m., my motion light went off. I watched from my bedroom window as she crept into the yard, holding a flashlight and a small shovel. She knelt down. Started digging. That's when the cops I'd already called arrived. They caught her in the act, violating her trespassing notice, restraining order, and disturbing what they thought was a memorial site. She was handcuffed on my lawn. Screaming. I stepped outside calm. She looked at me and said, I needed to say goodbye. I said, You said it the first time you stole from me. This time? You're saying goodbye to your freedom. She was charged and held for psychiatric evaluation. Her son didn't pick her up. No one did. The garden is quiet now. I still keep Dad's urn in a locked box, deep in my closet. I don't visit the oak tree much. It doesn't feel the same. But I sleep at night. I got my revenge. And Carla? She finally got what she really needed. Someone who listens to her screams from inside a padded room.